Here now is Dan Mitchell, Center for Freedom and Prosperity co-founder, with no food analogies. Dan, let's talk about the evolution of what has happened from the time that these tariffs were first announced by Peter Navarro, a big protectionist who was behind a lot of these trades. It's changed quite a bit from the time he first came out more than a week ago. Let's play the evolutionary tape. Listen to this.
As soon as he starts exempting countries, he has to raise the tariff on everybody else.
We're going to see who's treating us fairly, who's not treating us fairly. Part of that's going to be military. Who's paying the bills, who's not paying the bills. If we're making the deal on NAFTA, this will figure into the deal, and we won't have the tariffs on Canada or Mexico. We will not place any new tax on product made in the USA.
So Peter Navarro and Wilbur Ross come out and say no exceptions, no compromise, everybody's going to have to pay the tariff. Then we have the president on Thursday, and I counted at least 3 exemptions, and there may be more than that. What do you think of this evolution?
I don't think Navarro and Ross know what they're talking about, or maybe they were just speaking about what they wanted in their hearts. But of course, ultimately, it's Trump's choice, because our trade law, as the previous segment discussed, our trade law gives a lot of unilateral power to the president. And just because his advisors say A, he might do A- or A+. Now, I don't like what Trump's doing. But if he's going to do tariffs, I at least hope he puts in lots of exceptions for our allies and things like that, so he doesn't mess up NAFTA and other trade deals that are good for our economy.
Well, although there are a lot of things that have happened in NAFTA over the years, Dan, and there are certain advantages. We started out on a level playing field, and now we're getting away from that. It needs to be tweaked. Even some of the people that were in the beginning of NAFTA say that it needs tweaking right now, and that's what the president is doing. He's setting up the bargaining table, if you will.
I hope he is, because you're right. I mean, there are things like cultural content and dairy in Canada that still have a lot of protectionism.
Well, but there's some serious stuff down in Mexico, Dan.
Yeah, well, the whole energy industry in Mexico is very protected.
We can only bring into Mexico stuff that's worth like 45 cents. They can bring stuff into the United States worth over $800. So, I mean, there's right off the bat, there are irregularities there.
And so, yes, if I was doing it and you were doing it, then I think we could have a much better NAFTA than we have right now. I'm worried, though, that underneath everything else, Trump seems to think that countries should have zero trade balances with each other. And guess what? Goods and services and capital flows don't always balance out. I have a trade deficit with my grocery store. They never buy anything from me.
Well, and we remember back in the 1980s when we were growing at 4% and 7%, we had big trade imbalances. So it doesn't necessarily mean you can't grow and have a trade imbalance. But when countries get a free access to the United States and we are either blocked or have to pay these tremendous tariffs to get into their country, something has to be done, no?
I agree. It would be wonderful to use the power of the executive branch, the Trump administration, to sort of bully and browbeat countries into reducing their trade barriers. And again, maybe that's happening. Maybe Trump is doing this fourth-dimensional chess.
That's exactly what's happening, Dan. That's what this tariff thing. Maybe that's not what Navarro thinks. Maybe that's not what Wilbur Ross thinks. But we do believe that's what the president thinks. And look at the evolution of his talk from when Navarro came out with the thing at first saying no exemptions to the point where we heard on Thursday there are going to be a lot of exemptions.
Well, if that's true, then I will gladly come back on David and give mea culpas, because I really do worry that Trump has a protectionist instinct. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. God knows I've been wrong before on things. So we'll see. Because, yes,
you know,
it
with
would
Donald
be good
Trump,
to break...
Dan, excuse me for interrupting, but with Donald Trump, you follow what he does. Remember what business he was in. Remember how often he did business abroad. Remember how he bought stuff from abroad, or he sold stuff to people that were overseas. I mean, this is a guy who knows international commerce very well. I'll just put that as the last word, but go ahead.
Well, in some sense, you're right. We got a much better tax deal than I would have predicted a year ago.
Me too.
Now, on the other hand, Trump got rolled on the spending agreement on Capitol Hill. So we'll have to see what happens with the trade bill. I very much hope I'm wrong.
All right, Dan, we'll have you back. Absolutely. Thank you very much.